$1 million, the billionaire shouted. To anyone who can calm my dog. The crowd roared as his massive German shepherd lunged against its chain, teeth bared, eyes blazing. Trainers backed away in fear. No one dared step closer. Then, through the chaos, a small, trembling voice rose. Can I try? Everyone turned. Standing barefoot in the snow was a little homeless girl, her clothes torn, her face pale but calm. Laughter erupted, until she took a step forward. The beast growled, the billionaire smirked. And then, to everyone's shock, the impossible began to happen before their eyes. The winter sun gleamed off the marble courtyard of billionaire Victor Kane's estate. News cameras lined the driveway, flashes reflecting off polished Rolls-Royces and security drones hovering above. Hundreds had gathered, some curious, others desperate, to witness the challenge that had the entire city talking. In the center stood Thor, a massive German shepherd with eyes like fire. His growls echoed against the mansion walls, every muscle tense, every breath heavy with rage. He had once been Kane's prized security dog, until he turned uncontrollable. Trainers had failed. Experts had been bitten. No one could tame him. Kane smirked, holding up a gold microphone. $1 million, he announced, to anyone who can calm my dog. His voice carried arrogance and amusement. The crowd gasped, then erupted with excitement. One by one, people stepped forward, trying to prove their worth. Some offered treats. Others shouted commands. Every attempt ended the same. Thor lunging, barking, terrifying them all. Kane chuckled darkly, sipping champagne as he watched them retreat in fear. Pathetic, he muttered. The cameras zoomed in on the snarling beast, jaws glinting in the sunlight. No one knew it yet. But the one person capable of silencing Thor wasn't among the rich or brave. She hadn't even eaten that day. Just as the last trainer stumbled back in defeat, the sound of soft footsteps broke the murmurs of the crowd. From the far end of the courtyard, a small figure emerged, a little girl, no older than 8. Her oversized hoodie hung off her shoulders, and her shoes were torn. She clutched a small, tattered blanket in her hands as snowflakes clung to her messy brown hair. The guards immediately blocked her path. Hey, kid, this isn't a place for you, one of them said, waving her back. But she didn't move. Her wide blue eyes weren't on the crowd, they were locked on Thor. The wild dog's growl deepened as she took another cautious step forward. The crowd laughed. She'll get herself hurt, someone whispered. Another scoffed. What's she doing here? But the girl didn't seem afraid. She whispered softly, he's not angry. He's scared. Her voice trembled, yet her tone was calm, almost soothing. Victor Kane frowned, lowering his champagne glass. You, he said, incredulous. You think you can do what trained professionals couldn't? The girl nodded quietly. May I try? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. The crowd fell silent. Cameras turned. Even Thor stopped barking, and in that moment, curiosity replaced mockery. Something was about to change forever. The air grew tense as the little girl stepped past the guards. Her small frame seemed fragile against the massive courtyard, where Thor stood chained and restless. His growl rumbled like thunder, his fur bristling as she drew closer. Every instinct in the crowd screamed for her to stop, but she didn't. Her steps were slow, deliberate, and filled with something no one else had shown that day: gentleness. Victor Kane leaned forward in disbelief. Someone grab her before she gets herself killed, he barked. But the girl lifted a hand without turning back. Please, she said softly, don't scare him more. Thor's growls deepened, his body coiled tight like a spring. The guards tensed, ready to intervene. But the girl only knelt down, lowering herself to his level. She didn't reach for him. She didn't speak loudly. She simply whispered something, words so quiet no one could hear. And then, silence. Thor's ears twitched. His breathing slowed. The rage in his eyes dimmed as he tilted his head, confused. Slowly, almost hesitantly, he stepped closer. The girl extended her trembling hand, letting him sniff her fingers. The massive dog huffed once, and then pressed his head against her palm. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Cameras clicked wildly. The beast everyone feared had just surrendered. For a moment, no one breathed. The billionaire's prized German shepherd, the same dog that had attacked trainers, guards, and even police, now lay calmly beside a homeless girl, his head resting in her lap. The crowd stood frozen, disbelief painted across every face. Even Victor Kane's arrogant smirk had vanished. The girl gently stroked Thor's fur, humming a soft tune that carried through the cold air like a lullaby. His tail wagged weakly, a low whine escaping his throat, not of anger, but longing. "You're a good boy," she whispered, her small fingers tracing the scar on his muzzle. "You're just lonely, aren't you?" Something deep in Thor's eyes shifted. They softened, filled with the same kind of pain the girl carried in her own. It was as if they recognized each other's hurt without a single word spoken. Victor Kane stepped forward slowly, his voice uncertain for the first time. What did you do to him?" The girl looked up, her eyes glistening. "Nothing," she said quietly. "I just listened." Thor let out a deep sigh and curled against her legs as if finding the home he'd lost long ago. And for the first time in years, the cold billionaire found himself speechless, watching something no amount of money could ever buy. Pure, unspoken love. Victor Kane stood motionless, the world around him reduced to a blur of silence and flashing cameras. He stared at Thor, the beast who once struck fear into everyone, now resting peacefully in the lap of a little girl who had nothing. How did you do that?" he finally asked, his voice cracking with disbelief. The girl looked up at him shyly. "I didn't do anything special, sir," she said softly. "He just needed someone to understand." Her small fingers stroked Thor's ear. "I used to have a dog like him. Before I lost my parents. He was all I had. He used to get scared, too. But I would sing to him until he stopped shaking." Kane's expression faltered. The arrogance in his face melted into something unfamiliar, guilt. The crowd went still, the sound of cameras fading as realization washed over them. "She didn't calm him," a woman in the audience whispered. "She healed him." Thor lifted his head and nudged the girl's arm, as if confirming it. Kane swallowed hard, his eyes glistening. "You've done what no one could," he murmured. "You didn't just tame my dog. You reminded me what compassion looks like." The girl smiled faintly. "Sometimes," she said, "you don't need strength to calm someone, just kindness." The crowd erupted into applause, but the little girl didn't seem to notice. She just kept petting Thor, her small hands buried in his thick fur. Victor Kane, the billionaire who thought money could buy anything, stood frozen, watching a child who had just taught him a lesson worth far more than $1 million. Slowly, he reached into his pocket, pulled out a check, and tore it in half. "You don't need my money," he said softly. "You need a home." The girl blinked, confused. "A home?" Kane nodded. "From today, you and Thor both have one, right here." He turned to his assistant. "Prepare her a room next to the West Garden, and make sure Thor never leaves her side." Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "Thank you." Thor barked once, tail wagging for the first time in years, circling the girl protectively. Kane smiled, not the forced smile of a man used to getting his way, but the kind that comes from rediscovering something lost. As the cameras flashed, Kane knelt beside them and whispered, "Looks like you won, kid." The girl hugged Thor tightly, whispering, "No, sir. We all did." And for the first time, the cold billionaire's mansion felt warm, filled not with money, but with love, loyalty, and laughter.